The Ravening King, a story from the collection entitled The Book of Eldritch Whispers by E.S. Wynne. There is a tale that comes from the most distant corners of a Hyperborean place so far from the realms of civilized man that few have ever heard the name, and those that have often doubt it even exists. It is a tale about the end of the world, a tale of the true Armageddon as seen by a madman whose words found root for their sickly seed where life is harshest and only the truly insane would dare to tread. I have been to such a place. I have seen the words engraved on the broken ebon columns at the forgotten frost-swept city of Teclon, and I have touched the glyphs that spell out the end of days so clearly, so unshakably, and in such horrific detail that they cannot be denied. Now the cringe that sets in as the sun dips red toward the horizon is almost instinctive, a shivering horror that none other save my late colleague, Dr. Johannes Helter, would be likely to truly understand. It will come with the reddening of the sun to dusk. The translation of the glyphs still rings through the vault of my mind, haunting. My hands tremble with the memory, the knowledge that I may be unfortunate enough to live to see the day when the sun will yield to the taint that Heg and the Valkyr are destined to scatter so violently across heavens washed red with blood. When Heg rises, it blots out the sky. The translation does the true meaning of the impossibly ancient glyphs none of the terrible justice it deserves. When I read the translation, the passages describing Heg as a slow, terrible column of fleshy smoke and gnashing, wailing mouths that yawn hungry in the burning sky, the nuances are gone. The words seem flat and devoid of the terror implied in the complex glyph structures I've read as I've brushed the frost from them, chipped away at the dust and ice of ages. The passages describing Heg defy translation almost entirely, but those fragments that can be put into words impart fragments of terrifying detail, giving the beast a sort of rubbery, distended and glistening life, pulsing, giant-like, living, but wispy, hazy and translucent, like a foggy monolith carved from wet, corrupted flesh, rotting against the dying sky. Even the retranslation of the late occult scholar Dr. Miller only hints at the true monstrosity of Heg. The disturbing, orgiastic throb and pulse between layers of reality as it feeds, siphoning long, vaporous draws of crimson fire from the surface of our dying star, distorting the colors, the spectrum, dropping light into shades of monochrome, green and black. According to the glyphs, Heg's greedy feeding will drain light and color from the sky within the space of a few quick, terrified breaths, leaving nothing, leaving only a burnt-out husk of the sun hanging like a dying ember in the dead gulf above the horizon. I shudder to think of how lucky all of humanity would be if it were to end as simply and suddenly as that. I shudder to think of how lucky we would be if our final horror were to be to simply see our sun in its own few last moments. But the glyphs continue to track time beyond this sickly darkening of sky. Fat with sun vapor, the translated text continues. Heg stirs, momentarily sated in the haze and wake of its feeding. As it turns, mouths howling, throwing vibrations which shake the earth to its core like a frightened child, pale and gibbering in the pressing darkness. Its movements seem almost to cut apart the heavens, to shake apart the seams of reality. There is a terrible rattle and clatter, an echoing, hollow, bone-snap clacking, as the Valkyr pour then from every crevice and cave scattered in the dark places of the world, their thin, ebon wings chattering across sky and earth, across every window and door. Ripping mercilessly into every home, they tear away at every barrier, flexing terrible talon hands, shredding iron and wood like paper as they sweep across the land in a giant, starving storm, gathering nearly the whole of humanity into their swirling ebon hurricane and rising in swarms like a blight upon the dead sky. Their touch is cruel, not deadly, but insidious. One by one they stab their victims with their bone-plated faces, inject their cancerous venom into struggling, screaming souls, turn the living to drawn, frantic and shadowy bat forms as leathery wings burst bloody from backs, tendrils erupting from faces, chests writhing on alien yelps and gurgles. A few survive and are left behind. A few scattered souls missed in the mad rush of the Valkyr toward Hague, toward the ravening king, as the lord of endless hunger yawns and shifts sickly, like a monstrous maggot languishing in the bubbling rot of an untouched corpse. A few survive, but only long enough to envy the taken and the dead. There is a ripping flap of flesh and wind as mutant wings slap the air, continues the translation put forth by the late Dr. Woodruff, professor of anthropology at Miskatonic University. The words come close to describing the horrific sounds of the Valkyr in flight, but even still there is a level of detail lost, a level of detail that speaks of a wetness, of the beat of thick and trailing mucus against raw skin spotted with coarse hair. Grasping nails scrape as the Valkyr descend upon Hague's massive, surging body like a cloud of obsidian darts, punching into soft, rotting meat and erupting one by one from the other side in an explosion of bloody glee. Like needles towing thread, they move, thrusting their ebon bodies through and through, moving faster and faster as the ravening king cries out in an alien, undulating cry that ripples visibly through the fabric of reality. Thick, congealing blood will fly free in jellied rivulets, a rain of putrid, rubbery rot that cascades down across everything and soaks the ruins of humanity in a gelatinous deluge as ferocious as any biblical tide. Stricken, dying, Hague will fall, and the Valkyr will fall with it, moving still faster through its soft flesh as it collapses fully into our reality, splits itself like a boil upon the wide-spanning lands of the earth. As one, the Valkyr will dive into the chasm of its widest wound, swarm into sickly skin and wet coils of corpulent, howling mouths. Gathering in the darkness, they will wrap strands of liquid sun around the long, sharp plates of their faces, pull them like thread, carry them out and into the sky. One by one, the Valkyr will extract the sun from Hague's corpse. They will weave a tapestry of dark fire in the sky with the burning strands, a pattern of sigils and glyphs that will rest inscribed upon the instincts of spirits and the gibbering insane. They will move, but they will not see that which they create, only move, only cry out in hollow coughs as they work. The design will flash once, and then the Valkyr will become one with the pattern, billions of souls lighting up in a circle of burning wings and bone glowing like hot embers. Within minutes, they will be as ash, and as the cords of the sun burn out one by one, the sky will fall again into cold darkness, consumed by the fall of a night that will signal the rise of a new aeon. But even the words new aeon do nothing to evoke the true horror of all that comes after the burning of the Valkyr. For our world, our sun, there will be no rise, no glorious rebirth into some grand new aeon. Only the translation put forth by the late antiquarian Dr. Van Gelder captures the true nature of this new aeon when he refers to it as the dark forever after. Mankind is to be our world's last natural species. The obelisks of those ancient icy ruins say, as if in the end only Haig is reborn, and once again unsatisfied, he will rise up to fade back into the layers between time and reality, rise up and depart to another place, another world orbiting another star, its rise and its eternal hunger driving it on endlessly to bring silence to another civilization's declining reign.